Assalamu alaikum. Masa al khair al jamii, and I would like to welcome all of you to our last workshop in this semester. And I would like to thank you all for attending the whole series of workshops during this semester. Today's workshop is going to be about editing and revising skills presented by Mr. Mohammed Haseen. So thank you, Brother Mohammed, for taking the lead. So the floor is yours. You may start now.
It's my pleasure being with you guys. This exciting session that is going to deal with editing and revising. And this includes the whole gamut of skills, and it involves so much that I really don't know where to begin. But the thing is, right from the primary level to the high level, whether it's general English or whether it's academic English, we all need to brush up. We all need to refurbish our the kind of uh, tasks that we come up with. And if you want our task to stand out among others, we need to be like an owl with a discernible pair of eyes, and that can see far and deeper, and like even at night it can brighten up. So when it comes to revision, revision literally means to see again. So revision comes, after you have come up with something. Without having to come up with something, you have nothing to revise. So revision is like allows the writer to take a fresh objective at the whole, piece of production that you have come up with. It's not only looking at the previous draft, it's also looking at altogether pruning or removing or deleting the whole lot of paragraphs that they're not in line with or incommensurate with the kind of message or objective that the writer has in his mind. So revising is it's a process of revision. Revision means to have another look, to have a second pair of eye, and looking again at your own work with altogether different angle, and that has to be critical eye. It's like rethinking and reshaping your research paper. And if it is an academic paper, we are going to give first look, second look, and even the third look, in fact. So it's a painstaking exercise. It's not easy to revise and come up with the real draft that I'd like to come up with. The writing process in the revision is like a salvo. You have already, like you have shot the arrow, you shot the salvo. Now it's time for you to see its speed, its destination, its velocity, and all that. So revision is not proofreading. That's very important to know, because proofreading comes later, and that's after you have the finished product at hand, and you're trying to prune it with certain nitty-gritties of grammar and mechanics. So proofreading is more concerned with the rules of grammar, punctuation, spelling, and formatting, than actually having a whole lot of new concept or new addition to paragraphs. So proofreaders usually look for correct documentation. They look for subject-verb agreement, such kind of mechanical things. Probably if you have overlooked the commas and you have missed in the commas, those kind of things. There are so many concerns of proofreading that it involves the whole of grammar, structural, mechanical, syntactical errors, and lots of other things. So revision is not at all editing. Editors, they have to look later for the conciseness, for accuracy of the prose, for a stylistic consistency. That means like if it is a prose, is a poetry, or kind of piece of writing that you're aiming for. So it could be as simple as an assignment, your simple email, or your cover letter, or your any piece of writing. So some concerned editors, I mean, because it's the finished product, they could be relooking at the grammar and word choice and sentence structure. So writing process, it's a very I mean, compound process. It involves so many steps that is pre-writing. Actually, we write in our head first, and believe me, whether it's speaking or whether it's writing, or both, in both the cases, actually we have to cook up, we have to fabricate, and we have to come up with things in our head first, even before jotting down. So, and when it comes to scribbling it on the paper, believe me, the good writers, their trashes are full. Why? Because they have to write and write and rewrite. So it's comprised of many different kinds of activities and skills and boundaries between revising, editing, proofreading, sometimes collapsing. Unfolding of the things once again. So what could be limitations, even for the best writers and the best, piece of productions online, or you'll find some of the things lacking. I would call them linguistic lacuna. That means there's a shortcoming, the impediments of even the brilliant writers and brilliant speakers. They do commit errors, and those errors can be probably sometimes fossilized. I mean, over the years, and habitual. Sometimes can be cultural. Sometimes can be situation specific, and you don't have control over them unless you take the pain of relook and refurbish your product. And so combining editing and drafting to one step often makes the writing process slow and extremely painful. So it doesn't come handy. There are boundaries, there are limitations. So if you edit consistently from the beginning, you may get too attached to your first draft. Now the problem is you don't start pruning, scribbling, and all those things right from the first draft, because that would halt your entire progress with writing, and that would leave you muddle-headed. It would be messy, because your thinking process will be completely crippled. You won't be thinking any further, and that would be the end of your thought process, and you won't be imagining further things. So it's a good idea to first scribble a first draft or a later draft, and have a relook later on with the nitty-gritties or mechanical aspects of grammar or syntax. This could make it difficult to make significant changes during the revising. Moreover, supposedly, if you are going to remove the paragraph altogether or the complete page, what's the point of having to write it in the first place? Because anyway, you're going to delete it. So there's no need of editing before you really complete the draft. So revision is one part of the writing process that requires ample time and a change of gears. I mean, it's like, you do want to go in the top gear, or want to go in the starting gear, do you want to go in the power gear? The power gear is like your thought process, and that would give you more of opportunities to come up with the brilliant ideas and the original thinking. So if you are prepared to revise, I'd like you to have a look at these, techniques or tools that really help us. Because if we get muddled up and we don't think it over and over again, review, we won't be dealing with it in the more professional manner. So you need to take a break. I'm a drafting phase. Take a break from a draft. Take a walk. Take deep breath, or just phase out from that thinking. Read something entertaining in between. Put the drafts out of the mind, because anyway, you're not going to be stuck with the same idea again and again. Gauge time well. I mean, every production has to be timed. Give yourself breathing time before revising, because if you're not relaxed, composed, what are you going to look at? You're going to look at the same, trash thing that you have come up with. but keep your final deadline in mind, because anyway, you don't have the whole life to come up with the product. Uh, so consider whole work. Sometimes the totality of the work, I mean, the entire piece of writing, that is the main objective of coming up. So it's not just about a paragraph, or I mean, the sequencing, the stages, and there's a beginning. Definitely, there's a beginning. We have hooks, and we have thesis statement. We have general assumption, and we have whether it's argumentative, whether it's personal narrative, whether it's diary, or whether it's long novels or fiction. So you're going to uh, look at the assignment as a whole, not as a part. So the components of the fragments are like just the nitty-gritties. You don't have to look at it as a fragment. Do you address the appropriate audience? Sometimes we have to look at whether what I'm doing is the right thing I'm doing. Do your readers have all of necessary information? Supposedly it's a scientific kind of writing, and you're talking a lot of imaginary things and unreal things. What is the point? So you need to, of course, consider the content. Is the thesis a controlling idea clear and well supported? So thesis, that's the roadmap, or the blueprint of what you're going to write later. Do your ideas flow logically? But if you want your ideas to flow in a very logical progression, you need lots of signposting, and there are lots of linkers, and lots of contrasting or similarity, adjectives, adverbs, or kind of connectors. And are your ideas expressed in clear and focused language? That would definitely allow you to have a look with those linkers that you use. Whether what you have said, does it have a link with what you're going to say? Or are you lost in the middle? Are you simply looking at that particular part of the stage of the writing? The form is the introduction, engaging, of course, attention grabbers. You begin with a question, rhetorical questions usually, and that catches the audience attention. And each paragraph support and expand the thesis. Now the paragraphs have to be woven together, has to be latched on, has to be supportive of what you have already expounded, or what you're going to have the exposition towards the end of the finished product. Do paragraphs connect logically, or have you used effective transitional phrases? Transitional phrases are like it's taking from one level to the other, or from one stage to the other, or from one point to the other point, because it's like a journey, writing, it's like a journey, and you need to look at those milestones. And if you achieve one milestone, that will pave the way for the next milestone, in fact. So does each paragraph have an effective topic sentence? Now, each paragraph needs to have its own topic sentence apart from the topic sentence or thesis that you have started with in the beginning of the paragraph. And conclusion must be restated in a very clear, concise manner, because conclusion is nothing but repeating what you have started with, your proposition, your submission, your beliefs, your assumptions about the topic, and about your kind of stand you're going to take regarding that contentious issue. So don't feel shy of weeding out. It's like weeding out. I mean, removing, I mean, decluttering. Don't be afraid to make significant changes to your draft. I mean, probably the first draft was almost, I don't want to rubbish it, but could be rubbished, altogether. Because if you weed out unnecessary paragraphs, sentences, and words, what you will be left with will be the wholesome, precise, and coherent piece of something that you would really feel proud of towards the end of the product. So remember, revising the key to good writing. In fact, we must allot a part of our time and efforts and our energy, not only in drafting the first, second, but also revising the key points, because this is what going to make your write-up stand out among rest, make an impressive and lasting impression among others. So the first step involving editing and proofreading could be reread yourself, your own draft. And your assignment sheet, your criteria sheet, I mean, there are always check marks, even in our Unlock series, We find a check mark towards the end of every write-up, towards the end of every speaking task. I would like you to revisit your Unlock series, and you'll find the check box altogether. Why are those check box reminder in every unit we have it there? Because it's like a gentle reminder. It's like a slap on your face if you haven't really checked what could have gone wrong and what you could have done. I mean, overlooked at it and overlooked. I don't say that it's deliberate and intentional, but sometimes we are humans and error could happen at any stage of the time, any stage of the process of the writing. So check that you have specifically answered the question and complete all aspects of the task. All aspect, what do you mean by all aspect? Any idea in the chat box on the all aspect of the task? For example, evidence statement. Now, what do you mean by evidence statement? Now, whenever you say something, try to propose or it means that you have to substantiate your beliefs and points and with solid evidences from the sources, from the bibliography, from and the bibliography have to be authentic and reliable, because if that, you don't do that, it would indulge in, like, plagiarism, and you will end up having a bad show. So this is like, we need to structure writing. Probably we have discussed this aspect umpteen number of times in every workshops that we have undertaken or you have attended. Probably you might have been told that every structure begins with an introduction, a thesis, and all that. Then we have a body, and we have a conclusion. So at least three stages of writing you need to have, in any case, whatever kind of writing. And there will be a summarizing the main point of assignment or thesis or your research paper or your synopsis. The structure should be outlined. Now, outline the structure, that means you must scaffold or make it strengthen with the outlines. The outlines will help us to remember not to leave other things in. And the scope or limit should be explained. That means in every write-up, you can't go on. But there will be a point, there is a point where you want to reach or achieve, or that's to be your destination point, where you would like to end up making your argument, your idea across the reader, your thesis or research, or research gaps, or whatever propositions you are coming up with. You will have to end up at a destination, proper destination. So you need to know the scope or limits, and we have to work within those boundaries, the limits. For example, each paragraph should develop only one idea, which stated in the topic sentence. Now, usually, each paragraph it could be a standalone paragraph with its own main idea, and supporting ideas could be plenty. If it's a very long essay running into thousands of words, every paragraph should have its own topic sentence and its own supporting sentences, supporting details, supporting ideas, and all points made should be supported by evidence. You shouldn't talk in the air. Nobody believes if you simply philosophize or simply assume or frame up things out of blue, out of nothing. You have to have substantive evidences to support arguments. And obviously, those linking words or phrases should be based to create flow between paragraphs. Now, if standalone paragraph doesn't mean that it's an independent essay. Those paragraphs are the components, those are the elements, and so they have to be woven with the help of the phrases, the linking words. And you guys are familiar with those linking words, like contrasting whereas or but, or in opposition to, or in contrast with, or contrary to, or, and there are some similarities. Similarly, in similar ways, to tell you the fact, and in other words, and we can also even paraphrase things. So proofreading Usually when you have come up with the whole lot of your, that comes the end product of finishing it, you are going to look at word choice. That's a brilliant aspect to look at, because your write-up, if you come up with the brilliant adjectives, descriptive words, adverbs, imagery, metaphors, personifications, and brilliant comparatives, and narrative words, or active words, not passive verbs. Active verbs like, oh, I feel like, or exhilarated, excited, amused, bemused. That's kind of active verbs. Spelling, yeah, you could be a brilliant writer, but you won't be pardoned, or you don't have any apology to seek for creating spelling mistakes. Believe me, I do come across spelling errors even with the best kind of writers online, and believe me, even in unlock, I have come across spelling errors. Just think of the kind of situation that hundreds of eyes have scanned those texts. Is still the possibility of having spelling error couldn't be ruled out from Cambridge UP. So it's possible. The spelling errors, and then of course grammar is a whole genre of things to look at. When it comes to grammar, I'm not going to teach you now the whole lot of grammatical items that you have to look at. But if you essentially, if you don't look at the subject verb agreement, the singular plural, and the kind of tense structures, and that'd be tragic, in fact. And punctuation errors also really inhibit, and that's a stumbling block to the flow, to the expressions of the kind of message you get across. And even a simple comma can make or mar. Mar means to spoil. It can make or mar. They spoil the whole lot of expressions that you're aiming for. So word choice, you have to be concise. Use specialized language where appropriate. If you're doing scientific research and scientific, obviously you have to have science specific or exclusive terminologies, all from Greek and Latin, and all those nomenclatures and paraphernalias that you have to use it. Avoid words you don't know. Probably sometimes you endanger yourself into the zone of where it's hazardous to misadventure. It will misadventure. You're not sure of the word you're using, and you are repeatedly using or trying to use, and it's better not to. So it's safer to go for familiar words than going for familiar, unnatural, or alien words for you. So remove slangs, obviously standardized academic English. There's no place, there's no room for slangs, because they are culture specific, and some of them are really abusive, and they come in the category of profanity. So we must avoid in any academic field or area removing those slangs. And discriminatory languages are like referring to gender specific. So it's better to use instead of using the pronouns he or she, or it's better to use we, as if it's referring to a whole lot of both of the genders. It should be gender specific. And in fact, there is a trend now in the world that we're not referring to any of the genders in specific. Now the word is modality. Now modality refers to the way we go about it. Like if you go for low modality statements or conclusions, you don't have to be really so demanding and overgeneralize that what you are asserting is the only right way of saying it or doing it. In fact, it saves you from getting disapproved and getting looked down upon in the academic arena. So low modality statement tend to use words like it may be. Don't say it must, it has to be, they have to. It's kind of strong modal verbs which has necessities, unless they're called for. In case that it's safer to use some sort of moderation. in the choice of our words. It could be concluded that. So today, everyone uses their credit card for all their shopping. There could be people they're still not using any credit cards, including myself. I don't use credit card at all. So you can say safely that many people in society use credit cards for much of the shopping. So much is okay. Don't say all of the shopping or many of the shoppings. So when it comes to grammar, the basics cannot be compromised in any case. Like subject verb agreement, verb doing, the objects, the prepositions. You cannot, you're not expected to do such errors regarding the grammar. Most importantly, don't be afraid to read your assignment out loud. Now, this gives you a feel of what you have written. This also gives you a kind of, smoothness, the flow, the kind of, impact that you are going to have on the readers, the intended readers, the target groups that you're aiming to achieve, aiming to impress. If it doesn't sound right, when you feel that it's not right, it's not going to be right for others. So then, even in exam conditions, you should read your essay to yourself. I mean, head. You don't have to do it out loud, but you can do it in your head. Really, I'm in the habit of doing it most of the time, even today. I prefer reading out loud in my mind because that makes me sure the things. You don't need to read it aloud. You should actually mouth each word. Mouthing each word will help you not only to look at the kind of syllables, the kind of forms of the subject, like is it a noun, is it an adjective, is it an adverb? I mean, am I using a wrong form of the word? So in grammar, we have, like singular, plural, obviously, and we have to go for pronouns. I've already told you about mechanics of the grammar. Punctuation error is very important. If just a small comma might lead you into a world of trouble. Like for the small, tense, and quivering mouse looked at me. Now the small, tense, if you don't put a comma here, it's not going to make any sense, in fact. And an extra phrase into sentence. I mean, obviously, if you're describing things, you must describe in an extra phrase. I mean, descriptive adjectives means like a brilliant, vivid adjectives, an imaginative adjective, like tall, towering, dashing, Herculean or gigantic person, who wore a red tie, looked over his shoulder. Apostrophes, and they tell us about the possessives. So it could be either letter of the word have been left out. There's a contraction also. We use apostrophe like you are. I mean, it's to make it precise and contacted. Who will? The ownership of something possessive. So Lena's wallet. It's the wallet of Lena. So you don't have to read it as a Lena is wallet, right? Now, how do we know that it's not Lena is wallet? Obviously, after, the wallet shows that Lena cannot be a wallet, right? And the boys cannot be footballs. Spelling errors, there are some of the tools and these handy tools, but over reliance on those tools make you a bad speller. Believe me, I have also started losing my confidence as far as spelling is concerned. Why? Because most of the time those suggestive, predictive text gives you altogether either right or wrong spellings, and you are left out of confidence. So it's better to break those words, longer syllabic, multi-syllabic words, into chunks of fragments. The first syllable, second syllable, and that makes it easier. Like important, assignment. So you can never make wrong with meant. You have to worry about assign, ASSIGN. So the most visible spell checkers, we have it on all kinds of spell checkers already there. But over reliance, it's really painful, because you will never learn to spell correctly if you are going to always get it checked by others. It's better to check by your friends, your teachers, instead of checking by your these apps. So obviously you must not lose the cool. You have to stay calm, composed when it comes to proofread, because it's a very tedious and painstaking process. You might be, aghast or already exhausted with writing and writing, rewriting, and then you think, oh, there's no time for, okay, I'm done with it. But don't worry about it. Always success comes just before you're trying to give up. So proofreading is integral, essential, the most paramount part of your write-up. Now, if I have to explain again, what's the difference between revising, editing, or proofreading? There's a world of difference. Now, revising is altogether the whole text. You're going to have maybe another draft altogether, maybe deletion, maybe you want the final paper to error-free. Maybe it's time to pick your own. And editing and proofreading comes later, much, much later. So what are we going to do in editing? Usually we get rid of whatever goes off the topic, repeats what already been said. So it could be a paragraph, it could be the whole lot of part of the essay. It could be when you are revising, there is a checklist here. I mean, these checklists will really help you organize and save much of efforts, because you'll have a good writer. Like must remember the purpose. What is the purpose? Who are you writing for? Who is the audience? Are you giving a title that's a window to the world of the writing? Is the title justified, or you're saying the whole thing in the title? Title is like a window, It has to be catchy. It has to be short. It doesn't have to be a sentence. Content, of course, you have to be very clear at the outset itself that your content is meets your criteria of your objective. Audience, very important, because your audience is not so polished, is not so literate, is of the lower rung of the society. Is it for the commerce? Is it like an announcement, or is that transactional, or just not international, transactional? You have to lower the language of the tone is very important. Your tone tells us what kind of message you want to, and in what way. Unity of purpose, like all together, there should be unison in all your paragraphs woven together. Coherence, you have been taught so many times that the paragraphs have to be cohesive. It has to be coherent in all possible ways, and it has to grow and develop in tandem with what you're aiming for. So organization is APA format is a very popular format, and most of the writers are used in this. Now, I want you to really ask these questions to yourself before coming to any conclusion. I mean, why should someone want to read this paper? Do you have a clear purpose? And this is, I'm not able to really watch the chats, so I want you to reflect on some of these slides, guys. And if I can see why slides not seen. Okay, now seen, kind of, yeah. So really, I mean, you need to know about the, if you ask these questions yourself, you will get to see all the answers. You will get to see all the answers yourself. Uh, take a couple of seconds and look at these questions. Why should someone want to read this paper? Do you have a clear purpose? Does the purpose match the assignment? And what are the 4 basic steps that will occur during the revisions? Now, if you are aiming for revising your text, what are the 4 steps, basic steps? I mean, why should someone want to read? Why? I mean, does the title give readers a good idea what's to come? Have you ever come up with one yet? I mean, title has to be precise, has to be like your name. Your name cannot be a sentence, right? It cannot be something really common. It has to be uncommon. Your thesis shouldn't be like ordinary supporting details like facts and figures and fictions. And no, this statement is like a blueprint, as I told you before. It's like it gives you the roadmap of what you're going to say in the following paragraphs. And the lead-in is like you have already lost the battle. If your lead-in is not good, really, nobody's going to pay attention to, because people don't have time to look into your supporting details and other details. I mean, if you begin with in a haphazard and messed up manner, the reader will lose their interest to begin with at the very outset. So lead-in is establishing importance in the context of the statement. That's really important. But end of instruction, is it clear to the audience what kind of material will follow? Like even at the outset, you might take your audience in confidence that it's going to be fruitful, and there will be takeaways by the audience. It's not going to be a waste of time reading a text. And are the expectations going to be fulfilled, or they will be fooled or taken for a ride just by some kind of flowery language? Or I mean, you have to have a good introduction. And paragraphs cannot be, I mean, can be too short. I mean, it shouldn't be too short, in fact, because in each paragraph it has a main idea, the supporting details. You have to combine the separating of the issues that needs to take place. You also simply need to generate more content or delete irrelevant material. Now, writing a longer piece of essay, we really need to think about content, because there are lots of facts that need to be included. So continue asking yourself these questions, because these questions are like jolts. They will shake you from your beliefs, of your confirmation. Has anything that goes off topic or is not essential, given your word limit, been cut? I mean, every time you have to go by the word limit, any kind of write-up. Do the transitions between all sections in paragraph create flow and unity? Does the order of paragraphs make sense? Now, you cannot start with the concluding paragraph in the introductory paragraph. You cannot have the supporting paragraphs in the concluding paragraph, right, guys? Maybe the transition seems forced because they're in the right order. So you must look at orders. Like if I goofed up and get missed of all these slides on the top of the other, there will be no sequencing, right? There won't be any kind of flow and smoothness, and you will be puzzled. So obviously, if you have done your revision, your editing and proofreading, your write-up is going to be brilliant piece of, a piece, something you will always feel really accomplished about. You'll feel that you have created, you have done something that is going to be valued. Even the later time, in the later years, maybe your own friends, your own colleagues, they will cherish your writings, and even if you have a look later in the stage of life, you really feel proud, and you feel from within a kind of accomplishment that you had done over the time. So proofreading tips, if I have to revisit these things, I want you to recap these things, and I want you to have a look again upon like page numbers, margin. Now, page numbers are important because if you write or run into so many pages and you don't number them, obviously the writer will be lost. Margin, that's not a big issue anymore because of the digital era. We don't have to keep the margin. Gone are the days when you used to have letters, and we used to have paragraph writings an inch, an indentation with an indentation an inch away from the margin. Indented paragraph. Now, indentation is not a very big issue anymore. That's what is the conventions now, the new conventions. It used to be norms in the past. Title page obviously has to be bold, and it has to be heavy. It has to go in between with the margin, with indentation right on the top. The abstract has to be within the time limit. Within the space limit, within the word limit, and time limit. Your boss, the one who is training you, he will give you the time limit for that. So heading and work citement is very important, because no amount, any amount of your hard work will not pay you off unless you have substantiated your work with citations and bibliographical references. So there has to be references to go with your scientific academic writing, and you have already been trained in most of our presentations about how to write thesis, how to write a gap, how to find a gap, how to write in a CV letters and covering letters and all those kind of things. Now, I wanted to revisit some of the very petty things. They may appear to be petty, but you don't have to belittle its importance. Like capitalization. Just think of how many of us that we really bother about when we begin a sentence with capital. Even the level 4 students at ELI, I'm really stunned, or maybe not unpleasantly surprised to find they begin their sentence with a small letter. Even they write sometimes their names in small letter. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if we can't take care of such things, like names, people, places, organizations. Most organizations, like let's say our university, KSA, so K.SA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, like ELI, English Language Institute. And these are organizations, they have to be capitalized. Places, obviously, people, nationalities also, the first letter, because they're names, proper names. They're not common names. Even the common names, if they're unique, and they have attained the name over the years, they have to be capitalized. It's like mobile phone is okay, but when you say Samsung and Nokia and iPhone and Mac, obviously you're going to capitalize all of them. Personal pronouns in between, no. But if you begin with, obviously, countries, cities, and seas and oceans, lakes, that there is an issue here, because most of the seas and oceans, they won't capitalize. Other than there are some rivers, they are capitalized, others not. Lakes, the same goes for, depending upon what kind of speciality, what kind of uniqueness, what kind of exclusiveness these names have got. Titles, obviously, they have to be capitalized. Full stops, obviously, towards the end of the sentence, there's a period. So this helps you to know where you end, where you end your sentence. If you don't know where you end, well, how are you going to begin a new sentence? That would be puzzling. So some abbreviations also we need to put full stops, like UNO, U.N.O, United Nations Organizations, UNICEF. At the decimal point amount of money, we always capitalize, because we don't know whether it's a dollar, real, cent, or halalas. So we need to put a point to show that these are different denominators, denominations, whether they are the full real or they are the fractions of them. To separate parts in the email address, this is read out as dots. Why do we read aloud as dots? Because there's a format for email. I mean, you have the address C, you have the salutation, we have the punctuations of, we have the ending and closing and all those kinds of things. Now, if you want to know about some of these tools, online tools, software, they really help us to make our task a bit easier. But I would caution you against relying heavily on them, because that would make you a slave of these tools. It's like bubble.r. Scrivener is a good online tool for checking. Reverse dictionary will help you with a lot of synonyms, antonyms, and gives you. The good thing about checking the dictionary is that once you check one word you're not sure of, you're going to get across plenty, at least 2 to 3. You know that English has got a multi-layered meanings for each word with synonyms. And although no 2 words are really synonymous, there are standalone words, but there are some words in close meanings. Grammarly, it's a fantastic, brilliant tool. It's paid. That's the problem. But if you're paying for it, I will tell you that for the beginner writer, it's really helpful. It's a blessing in disguise. But to me, Grammarly hasn't really helped me a lot, because I get stuck when I come up with lots of complex sentences, and it cautions me against, as if, because it's a tool, it has limitations. It cannot decide two main clauses and two subordinate clauses or depending clauses, principal clauses, and even it gets lost when it comes to long sentence unwinding with semicolons and colons and dots and parentheses and all kinds of quotation marks. So Grammarly is brilliant for beginners, not for those who are academician, and I caution them not to rely on it. Evernote is fine. Google Docs, of course, is another brilliant app. You can always use Google Docs for any kind of generating ideas, mind map, even the contribution. Like you want to have a project assignment from different groups, and Google Docs can be shared with plenty of people in the real time, and anyone can contribute and also comment, and can also highlight the comments. can suggest the changes. Microsoft Word in itself is a big thing, If you use it properly, that also gives a lot of. So what are the 5 writing apps to help you? If, Scrivener, Simple Mind Free, Evernote, Hemingway Editor. This is another app for fast line editing. I mean, if you really want to do fast editing, you don't have time, you have a submission deadline, and you must listen to your supervisor or your research scholar, Hemingway is ready right now. Dragon, naturally speaking, for adding more to do your story. This helps you to add ideas to your story. The Dragon. So it's a reflection time now for you guys. So you are a writer in between. You can see the circle. So you could be the writer, you could be the presenter, you could be the. Now, what comes to your head? You have all of these, issues bothering you all the time. You will be hard pressed thinking of the timing, about the kind of lexes, kind of mechanics, kind of pace, kind of choices of the words, kind of extensions, and kind of rewriting your drafts and all that. So this is like a puzzle writer, a puzzle speaker, and he must brainstorm in the head itself before jotting down on the paper how he or she is going to do carry out with to have a brilliant draft. I'm adding some of the others, so it could be friendly to one, may not be friendly to others. So this is free online proofreading and essay editor. You can use that. There is another called Typely. So uh, if I have to recap some of the things, like what are steps in content development? First step for most manuscript is content development editing, reviewing the meat of the story. What is the meat of the story? Now, this is not the meat of a hashi from the camel or from the cow or from the sheep. Is the meat of the story is the main substance, the body of the story, the plot, where it happens, the background, and the characters, who are they going to play the roles. In step 2, we have the editing line. Line is focused primarily on sentences, paragraph structure, attention to. Then we have step 3, copy edit. And finally, towards the end of you're going to proofread, like the editor does. The editor has a brilliant, is a plenty of tasks. Now see some of the words here, you can always use one for the other. So it's better always to substitute the words, So what are the handy hints for editing and proofreading your assignments? Editing will involve these 4 basic components: content, source, structure, style. Proofreading will involve word choice, spelling, punctuation, grammar. So look at these 2 pictures here. Editing looks like the essay as a whole, is the whole tree. Editing is like the whole tree. You're dealing with the whole gamut of the whole tree. So it's a task requirement, style, source information, structure. But when you come to proofreading, it's like bit by bit, chunks by chunks, by leaves. Some leaves may have fallen down. Some may have to be already, hanging. Some leaves may be of different color. Some leaves may be weak. Some leaves may have a weak tendon, weak pigmentation. So I'm talking biologically. Leaf, the pigmentation gives the color to the leaves, So the leaves are like components, nitty-gritties. You can say, I'd call it paraphernalia. I would call them can be tools, can be, uh, for example, the system. If you look at editing, is a whole system. If you look at proofreading, the components of the systems. These are other tools. Thank you so much. Being a patient listener, I have plenty of things to convey. I tried hurriedly to cover up most of the things because editing and a revision thing that involve all stages, all kinds of write-ups, right from the general writing to all kinds of uh, genres of writing, if you like to say genres. So it's not about we need to write precisely. We need to write scientifically, professionally, and we need to have a look. So I've got some of the slides to discuss again with you guys, because I couldn't keep an eye on the chat box because I was focusing on my slides, and this is like a recapitulation time, and I would love to revisit all the slides. If you like to me to go back and do pose questions from and a volley of questions would like to. I'm here to, I'll try my best to dispel your doubts, dislodge your beliefs if there are any about editing and revision, revision or proofreading things. And the floor is yours for throwing the questions, a volley of questions that would like to get back to me. Thank you, guys. You have a brilliant audience. Actually, I haven't been keeping an eye on the people, the reactions, and the comments in the chat boxes. Now, I'd like to uh, get back to.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Brother Muhammad. Thank you for all presenters. Thank you for the attendees and their participation and everything. And inshallah, we hope to see you, inshallah, in the summer. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your night, and you have a happy Ramadan to all of you. Thank you.
Happy Ramadan to everyone from my side also. Guys, stay blessed. Hoping to catch you soon in the coming workshops. Happy Ramadan to all of you.